Hey, it's Les from the TV Dudes. This week, I chat with Love Guaranteed star Lisa Durupt. Love Guaranteed is a Netflix film that just came out, and in it, Lisa will be starring alongside Damon Wayans Jr., Heather Graham, and Rachael Leigh Cook. Now, Durupt is no stranger to the small screen. She's also made her name for herself as a fan favorite on the Hallmark Channel, and had a large role as Jen in the CBC series Heartland. We talk about all that, what she loves about acting, and much more. It's a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoy.
Hey, it's Les.
It is. Thanks so much for making time
Thank
today.
you.
I really appreciate it. Looking forward to the interview.
Yeah, of course. Right back at you. No problem.
One of the things that I had seen in doing research was that you literally came to theater. I don't know, the way that I think every teacher I've ever had probably wanted us all to when we had to read Shakespeare or go see anything. You just literally had to go see a play and then came out of it with like, that's my major now. Uh, can you talk a
Yeah,
little bit
totally.
about seeing Chorus Line? Was it Chorus Line?
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about seeing that and
Yeah, of course.
what about that grabbed you and where you were kind of in life that you got the bug that way?
So I had never had any interest in that whatsoever. And I went to university in my home city of Winnipeg, Manitoba, which, if you're not familiar, it's kind of like straight up from Minnesota. And I was supposed to go away for school. I was going to play hockey, but I had hurt myself. I dislocated my shoulder about 3 times in my grade 12 year. And I just knew I wouldn't have a good college experience if I didn't fix it. So stayed home. My mom had said she heard that one of the local universities was starting a female hockey team. So if I went there, take a couple classes, just kind of keep my brain active while I was getting my shoulder fixed, because it was a bit of a process. I said, great. And I took what I thought would be an easy theater class. So I really walked in without any expectations of wanting to be somebody, or, sometimes which, you hear it kind of, it's what drives young actors in these theater classes and this and that. I really was just kind of an audience member. And so when they said your first thing we had to do was to go see Chorus Line, I was just excited to go to, a musical. It wasn't something we had done a lot of growing up. And when I went, I couldn't get over the athleticism and just the amount of talent that it took for these people. Chorus Line is such a specific show where it's not this, it is an ensemble, but each one of them kind of gets their moment. And so when it came to this one girl, the character Val at Dance 10 Lux 3, she's fan kicking and belting her guts out. And, it just looked so hard. And I was coming from a place of, I had grown up playing sports, and I was kind of, I think, deep down just getting tired of playing sports and not feeling like creatively it was challenging. I don't know that I knew that then. I just knew that when I was watching this show, I was like, how is she doing this? How is this girl possibly doing this? And I turned to the guy who was my boyfriend at the time, and I was like, I want to do that. And he just laughed. He's like, yeah, right. I was like, no. I'm going to do that. And so when I went back to school the next, day or a couple of days later and started talking to people, I found out that there was a local dance company or dance school that would work with you if you were older and get you into it. And I think part of it was I was just really naive. I thought it would be a lot easier than it was, because I was like, I'm athletic, I can do this. But, I must be able to high kick and whatever if I play hockey. But it was so much harder. And then the harder it got, the more it drove me to want to do it. Just having grown up playing sports, that need to succeed on some level, when someone says no to you. it had always instilled this little part of, like, when people say no to me, my brain instantly goes to, say no to me. Like, I will figure this out. So it just kind of catapulted me into this idea that the harder it was, the more I wanted to do it. And it wasn't for, I think, the same reasons as maybe some of my friends or classmates that, they really wanted to be a star. That wasn't even on my radar. I just had set this goal that I wanted to be on that stage, doing a musical, being able to do what she did. And so that's kind of when I just started and I went after it.
I've talked to a few different people who've come at acting from a sports background, either through an injury or just through a change up.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Mm-hmm.
always seems to me like there's a benefit that comes from that. Maybe I don't want to say not romanticizing it, but it, dancing is
fair.
it is a creative thing and it's an expression of yourself and everything. But coming at it from a sports background, you might see the athleticism as, no, that is a skill that I know that if I work X amount of hours in, with the right program, I
Mm-hmm.
can learn that skill, at least to a degree. And knowing that you can set a disciplined schedule and you can
Mm-hmm.
enter a program, like it maybe a little naively, but you can go into a dance program and say, great, I want to take a year of this and see where I am.
Yeah, I definitely was naive because I started with, I think, 5 or 6 year olds in some classes, and I just went, okay. But yeah, I did. Oh my gosh, my first ballet class, my teacher was like a really good looking 16-year-old guy, and I was with 5-year-olds, and they thought I was a teacher. I'm like, wrong. But it humbles you, and I think definitely coming from a sports background, what I have found is that you take a more practical approach. And that idea of rejection, or the idea of like, oh, they didn't like me, you don't really think that way, because even when you're young, if you tried out for a team or something and you didn't make it, your brain didn't go to like, oh, they didn't like me. Your brain just went to, okay, what didn't work? How can I make it better for next year? Because you always knew that you would just try out again, the next year.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely that mindset has helped. And I can see why people who are athletic and did well in sports do well in this industry, because they just don't seem to get caught up. I mean, you still have your moments when you're up for a lead for something and it doesn't go your way, of course, but you rebound way faster, and it's not so daunting on your soul. You're just, once you kind of pick yourself up after 24 hours, it's like, okay, what's my next challenge?
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about moving into the actual professional world of it? I know going from that, whatever you saw in that stage and chorus line that you wanted to do, was there a gap, or how long did it take before you got that feeling on a stage, or was that feeling what you thought it was going to be?
I don't think it was what I thought it would be. I don't know what I thought it would be. I hadn't really thought that far. I just thought, oh, I got to check this box off. But definitely, it's never what you think it's going to be. Definitely on one side of the coin, it actually was easier than I thought it would be, because what I found was that the harder, or not harder, I should say, the more that I asked questions and, just kept trying to find more information, the more people were accessible to me. It's just kind of that idea, if you just put it out in the world, it'll come to you. I think it's just because most people want to help you. But the other side of it, I think, was much harder. Was what I wasn't prepared for was how non-savvy I was when it came to business. I really was so naive that way, where I just, thought everyone was so sweet and kind and everyone had your best interest. And sure, to a point, but it's a business, the idea that I remember the first day showing up on a film set and not understanding that it wasn't a negotiable time when you're supposed to be in hair and makeup, but I was nice and I picked up one of their cast guys and they're like, Lisa, you're supposed to be here half an hour ago. And I was like, oh yeah, but so-and-so needed a ride. And so they're like, no, they can get their own ride. You needed to be here. And the AD, he was so great. His name was Charles. And to this day, I'll never forget him. He was like, do you understand how much money it costs every minute you're not here? And he broke it down for me and he blew my mind. He's like, so every minute you're late, you just cost us $10,000. Are you going to do that again? And I said, no, but I just, I was being sweet. I thought I'd drive everyone. And yeah, so that part I was oblivious, and I had to have a few tough lessons and a few stern talking tos but then once you get it, now, that behavior pattern has changed and you will not do it again. Yeah, some eye-opening moments for sure.
I know you've also had some training in stunt work, and that always just amazes me, particularly because I find that a lot of people don't understand sometimes the gulf between actors and stunt people and the differences in who's in what union and what all people can do. Uh, can you talk a little bit about getting into stunt work and how that's fit into your repertoire?
Sure. That was, again, just kind of naivete, right place, right time. So when I decided to geez, I was in the Army, to enroll full time in the theater program, one of the classes that I took was just a stage combat class. I thought it'd be fun, again, something fun and physical to do. And the stage combat professor happened to be the head of stunts for film in the province of Manitoba, where I was living. So any films that were coming in the film industry in Manitoba was just sort of starting, because it had a couple years after SARS in Toronto, and therefore everything had started to move to Winnipeg just as an extra option. He was quite busy with stunts, and so I took his class. I did really well. Just, again, wanting to do well in the class, not even thinking about it. And after the final class, I just said bye and I left. And after Christmas, I saw him in the hallway, and he just said, "Why didn't you give me your resume?" And I, again, didn't know what he's talking about. I'm like, "Why would I give you? I don't really have a resume." He's like, "Well, everyone else did. And I heard you used to play hockey and you're getting into dance and stuff. And I'd love to take you out for lunch." And so we went out, and he kind of explained it to me, and it just sounded fun. And I have to be really careful, because I know I have friends that are stunt people, and I know how hard those guys train. And so I was just fortunate that I was young, I was athletic, I was in the right place with the right person who eventually became a coach or a mentor to me, that he took me under his wing. And so, it was smaller stuff when they didn't want to fly the big guys in, but I think within 2 years, I'd already gained 10 stunt credits, which now, knowing my friends that are in stunts, those guys pull mats for sometimes years before they even get an opportunity. It's such a tough business, and they're basically expected to train in anything and everything. Some of them do 5-6 hours a day. And I was just, kind of resting on the fact that I'm naturally talented at this. And so it became very clear after a couple of years that, either step up or step out, because if you're serious, you need to train. You need to do some, weapon work. You need to be able to do slide cars and BMX bike crazy training. And I was just more drawn to the creative principal photography type stuff. So eventually I was like, "I'm good, thanks." But yeah, it was an amazing experience too, because now, knowing what I know now and seeing how lucky I was, I don't think I totally appreciated it, but I sure as hell appreciate it now. And the fact that, you look at something like the Oscars, they don't even have a category. And these guys are the bread and butter of, I would say, look at the Marvel franchise. Like 90% of that is all these stunt people and, graphics and what have you. And we just kind of don't ever talk about them. So, it was a great experience. And I feel super fortunate to have had it. But I just have nothing but respect. And nowadays I would never be like, "I'm a stunt person." Like, oh, hell no. I loved it. It was great, but definitely not a stunt person anymore.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about, before time gets away from me, talk a little bit about Love Guaranteed, which from the trailer I can tell is going to have tons of stunts and a lot of gunplay. I'm sorry for folks that have not seen the trailer. I'm kidding. It is a very adorable looking movie with Rachael Leigh Cook and Damon Wayans Jr., where you played Denise. Can you talk a little bit about the casting process of it and getting into the role? I know you've done quite a few romantic films. Did this one jump out to you script-wise, or was there something that came up on set where you went, I particularly love this one?
Yeah, I do love this one. It had been a while since I'd done a really good comedy, to the point where I was bugging my agent a lot, because I live in Vancouver in Canada, and unfortunately we just don't get as much comedy up here as we would like to have. And when we do, what happens is you get someone fantastic like Ali Wong who comes up here, and of course, naturally, they're going to bring all their friends, because that's what I would do too. So when we do get to work on stuff that's well-written comedy, it's so much fun. So when this one came up and I saw who the director was, I'm such a hardcore comedy geek, but like the old school comedy, like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, or what was the other example? Of course, now it eludes me. But Mark, the director, he was the guy who helped me out on here. I'm blanking.
Oh,
but Grumpy Your Old Men.
I was about to say, I wasn't sure if you were going to mention, Mark Steven Johnson. I mean,
yeah.
So Everything from Daredevil
Yeah,
to
but
Grumpy Old Men. It's a wild Simon Birch. It's a lot of credits.
exactly. So as soon as I saw that, instantly part of you, that little part of your Canadian brain goes, oh, it's probably going to go to one of their buddies. So I call those like a freebie, and I love those auditions because you ultimately are just walking in with no expectation but to have so much fun because it's a freebie, right? You're just going in, you're having a great time. And so when I walked in, I had a little, not want to say a spat, but a little dispute with my agent because the description of her was that she was in her 50s and she was going through menopause. Now, I'm in my 30s, going into my 40s, but I look about mid-30s, so I know like I'm not 20 anymore, but this feels weird. It feels kind of pushy that I'm going in and trying to play funny 50-year-old menopause woman because the whole script was about her going through menopause. And he's like, just go with it. Casting really wants to see you for this. Just go with it. And I was like, okay. And so after I came out, I got in the car and I was like, it went really well, but please don't do that again. Like, let's just keep it within kind of a natural age range. I just felt really silly. And the description for the character specifically was that they were looking for someone along the lines of the character Rita on Parks and Rec, which is played by this amazing Black woman. And I went, like, I couldn't be further from that if I tried. I am like, she is tall, fierce, and like a woman. I am tiny. I sound like this, and I look like Kristen Bell. Like, we are not in the same category at all. But I just thought, okay, how do I make it work? And so the idea of her going through menopause, I'm like, we'll make her go through like early menopause. And everything I reference will be like early onset. So she has this problem with like early onset menopause. And then make her the office, I call it an obs auntie, the one that like sips wine the whole day.
Mm-hmm.
And they went for it. And so I was shocked when I got cast, but in a really good way. And then when I got paired up with Sean, who plays Roberto as a team, I knew as soon as we did the table read, I was like, this is going to be gold because him and I just got along so well. And the characters, because it's Mark and because I trusted him completely from being such a fan of Grumpier Old Men and everything else he's done, I'm like, we're good. This is going to be great. And then when you added in Rachael, who's freaking hilarious, but is so brilliant at dry comedy, and she's very self-deprecating, which makes you love her even more. It was one of those things that sometimes when you get a cast together, it just works, and sometimes it doesn't. And in this case, he knew right away this is going to work. So it definitely was a good one. Not to sound cheesy, but it was a really special experience. You don't get those very often, unfortunately. So yeah, it worked. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Damon Wayans Jr. has just always been a delight. And I think Josie and the Pussycats was the movie where I first went, okay, Rachael Leigh Cook's great. Let's watch her and everything. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Totally. Yeah.
Thank you so much
awesome.
for making
and she
time
came up
today.
with the whole thing.
Oh, say again.
Oh, I just said that, when you were talking about Rachael, I just said she came up with this whole thing. Like, it's fantastic that she came up with the idea, and it's all her, and, it's her big thing her big first producing gig, so to speak, and she crushed it.
That's
so,
great.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Well, it's dropping on Netflix on September 3rd, and I can't wait to see you in it. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to me about it today. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Have a great rest of your day.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
TV Dudes is an independently run podcast out of Austin, Texas. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/TVDudes.
You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is done by our friend and original TV Dude Gregory J. Amani Smith.
To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com. I'm Randy Lander.
I'm Les Weiler.
And I'm Kyle Scott.
Thanks for listening.